The big betting race of the weekend, indeed the first leg of the autumn double, of course, is the Cambridgeshire, and that's going to be run at Newmarket on Saturday, and it's due off at 3:40. Richard Hawes and myself now are going to take a look at one or two of the main protagonists here. Sky Bet at the moment are betting 8-1 the field. Hackdrum is the 8-1 favourite with Chill the Kite, or Chilvrukite, at 9-1. Mijhar at 12s, Bronze Angel at 14s, King's Warrior at 16s, together with Strictly Silver and also Quick Wit, and also Rewarded, and 20-1 bar those. We're going to take a look at McDarham for a start. Representing William Haggis, Paul Hannigan likely to have the ride in the colours of Sheikh Hamdan. This galloping clue on soft ground in the middle of the summer on the July course.
When beaten by Sovereign Debt, who held an entry, I think, for one of the Group 1s, actually, this week. But is a fast improving horse. Sovereign Debt has to work pretty hard to get past Mukadrem, whose defeat prior to that had come at Royal Ascot in the, what was the Hampton Court? I think it's now called the Sir Centenary Stakes. I think that's right. Get confused with all these titles. But had previously won at Newmarket twice on the Rolling Mile early on in the season under Paul Hannigan. On both occasions, well found in the market, beating Fluctuate, unexposed in terms of the number of runs that the horse has had. I mean, we're going to find slightly more, well, firmer conditions, I think, at the weekend. Whichever way you look at it, I don't think we'll be getting quite as soft as there. I'm just trying to have a look at my little worksheet for various, switches in terms of grounds, as to see what that's like. I mean, Shamadal is just a pretty good sire, particularly actually on the all-weather more than anything else. It would be, I wouldn't have thought he'd been inconvenienced by soft. I wouldn't necessarily upgrade that much. It's just Sovereign Debt's pretty good. He ran him quite close. I wouldn't suggest that the ground, probably in terms of form, that was probably almost a career best. So maybe the faster conditions might not be absolutely perfect for him, but he's won a good firm. He's won a good soft. He's just a William Haggis horse that places them well.
Exactly.
Opposite July. Is that because you're
saving it? Yeah.
Or is it because you met a little setback and then saving it? One or the other. But he has been off since July, which I wouldn't have thought would be the profile. I mean, the difference is that we've got 3-year-olds in the race. I mean,
I was going to actually, that's on the top of my sheet here. That I was going to ask you. Since the turn of the century, 12 runnings. Twice the race has been run by 3-year-olds, 5 times by 4-year-olds, and to buck the trend totally, the last 2 renewals have both gone to 5-year-olds. How do you sit with 3-year-olds?
Well, the rules these days are such, that you have to be very highly rated as a 3-year-old to get into these races. I mean, part of the reason that some of the big handicaps during the course of the summer have never had good 3-year-old representation is it's not done on weights. Sorry, it's not done on ratings, it's done on weight. So the weight for age you get means that if you're a 90 rated 3-year-old, you'll be beaten to the punch by horses rated 91, 92, 90, even though in the weights, you're a better horse. Yep. So it's a little unfortunate from their point of view. So it's interesting that they've got such a good, strong reputation that by definition then, of course, they're high quality horses. They're horses that are likely to make up into group performance. So it's no surprise that those that get in should have a reasonable record, because clearly they're very high quality, otherwise they wouldn't make the cut.
And this horse is 17th in the cut, and yet he's only the third 3-year-old in the list. So It shows there's a very small sample there, really, of 3-year-olds. If they turn up, they tend to run their race.
And I can see the point being at his speed, but he's only had 4 runs. It's a messy bun fight of a race at times, particularly a couple of those winners which we were talking about. The unexposed ones can find trouble in running. You can't be too cute. You've got to have the technical speed, the nous to get gaps when they come. So he's been well found in the market for horses of inexperience. He might be a group horse and a handicap. We've seen a few of those down the years in this race, but he might have to be.
6-year-olds don't have a great record in the race, and yet we're going to take a look at a 6-year-old now. It's a horse trained by Jane Chapel-Hyam. It's a horse called Mull of Killock, and Joseph O'Brien has been booked for the ride. He's in a race here at Newmarket with the likes of Switzerland, who probably might well be one of the pacier angles, I would imagine, in a race that's always run at a blistering gallop. Out of this race, which one caught your eye, Richard?
Well, still with Mull of Killock, because of course you've got to look right the way back. He was second in the Lincoln, so it's sort of typical top and tail sort of campaign for the horse. That second in the Lincoln occurred off a mark of 96. He'll line up off a mark of 100. Subsequent to this performance, where, as you can see, he comes out on top, he's finished behind Boom and Bust when he cut out the running at Ascot and got run down by a couple. And this is the way, if you win a race like this during the course of the season, and you are not an upwardly mobile horse, as in you're not a 3 or 4 year old that's progressing, you leave yourself very vulnerable when you've gone up in the weights to those even that you've beating you, but you certainly leave yourself vulnerable to potential improvers. Very likeable horse, has won races down the years, both for this yard and the preceding one, but I'd be a little bit surprised if Mile of Clock was good enough. As you mentioned, there are loads of other horses involved in that particular line of form, but they were quite well beaten other than Vainglory. There's a couple of lengths back to them. All the conditions might not have suited all of them, being soft ground, but I'd be surprised if Mile of Clock was quite good enough. Boom and Bust, who beat Mile of Clock when they lined up it was a Shogar Cup race, I think, is an interesting type of horse, though, because quite versatile. Actually, these two probably for different reasons. Boom and Bust got away with winning the Goodwood Mile race, the big handicap there, by showing good tactical speed, getting to the front. Now, if you look down the list of previous winners of this race, there are occasions when that pays dividends. Super Seuss was one.
Yeah. Trained incidentally by Hughie Morrison, of course.
Prince of Johanna, is another one who always close to the speed. And so Boom and Bust is quite interesting. And Chill the Kite, the thing that was completely missing here from Chill the Kite was the explosive turn of foot that he'd shown on a couple of occasions in the past. Hughie went an unusually long period of time without a winner for him. I mean, it was astonishing. It was 70-odd, right, or something like that. It was getting on for that. And Chill the Kite, during that period, still ran well, and he's got an astonishing turn of foot. He doesn't run in a straight line when he does it. He'll go to his right, but he doesn't half quicken. And he's a very interesting contender, Chill the Kite, because he's got the tactical speed to come from behind if he gets the breaks. I think I'm right in thinking that Richard Hughes at the moment is jocked up.
He is, yeah.
There was some talk whether Ryan would get back in time, but clearly that doesn't look as if it might be the case. But he's a very interesting runner, Chill the Kite. But there was just that trademark turn of foot was slightly missing that day at Haydock. But he exhibited it really well at Ascot, and I wouldn't necessarily be concerned if, ground related. He's an interesting horse. It was quick at Haydock, and I don't know. I could just see him running a big race, Chill the Kite, and similarly Boom and Bust the other. And get out front, keep it simple, uncomplicated. You want to be drawn in a certain place for Boom, but not in the middle, basically.
Chill the Kite, representing Hughie Morrison, saddled the winner of this race back in 2009. Let's take a look at Postscript now, winning form from the end of August. This comes up at Sandown Park. Runs in the colours of Dr. Marwan Kukash. And again, one of the pacier angles in this race, one would imagine.
Yes, he was well placed the way this race developed. Again, it was a little bit of a bun fight. I mean, if I'm going to be consistent, I've got to go down the same lines of Mile of Clock, really, haven't I, in the sense that, to be fair, Postscript is a 4-year-old, so there is potentially more improvement. He is going to have to keep improving, which is what he's been doing so far, because he's won his fair share of races this campaign. Good tactical speed to get a break on them, and maybe that is going to be a key asset, because he's won this decisively. That was off a mark of 85. He will line up off a mark of 92, so 7 is not over penal for that. And if you look back to where he began the season, we're talking about him being a sort of 68 rated horse, so he's made really good strides throughout the year. He would just have to put up yet another career best. It's not beyond him, but he really has been a big improver this year. Versatile as regards ground. He was good to soft when he won at Haydock in June. He's not going to encounter conditions that are really boggy.
And he's got that, the way that he put that race to bed, he's got that very dangerous kick just as they go down into the dip, hasn't he?
I was quite impressed, actually. I'm afraid to say, but 4, maybe he's got a little bit more improvement there by Pivotal, which we say is just a good sire, whatever. And Graham Lear has been jocked up, so he won't lack from strength in the saddle.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm going to let you introduce the next VT.
Bank New and a Heron, yeah? Yes, there's lots of this race. Yeah, it means New Bank of Ireland. It's a bit easier to say. It was 50-1 first up for Mike Appleby at Goodwood in big field, which might be the race we're going to see. Actually, it is. And I remember thinking, that's all right, it's 50-1. It travelled like a flaming dream throughout. I danced around it for ages, but eventually you'll see it. It travels up, so it just hasn't reproduced it since. And it came over. I think it was one of Jim. I think we have Jim Bolger to thank for. Making us all look stupid and crucifying the Irish, the Gaelic. And
I actually called it New Bank of Ireland once in the call.
You weren't wrong. That's what it means. When you look, you see, it's absolutely, he's 51 chance, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to mention him now because he's travelling so well. And it was a competitive race. I think I'm right in saying, well, we've got loads in here, haven't we? We just mentioned so many. he hasn't reproduced it on the first run for the yard. Mick Abbot's had a fantastic year. But this horse has gone a little bit backwards from this. So as a result, you're probably looking at, although Christophe Soumillon is jocked up, which is interesting, but he was 50-1 this day, and but he's had, 3 runs subsequent when he hasn't run as well as that, and that's the concern. You've got all sorts of other horses that are potentially involved in the race, but Bronze Angel is the other interesting one that we haven't had a chance to mention, because I think Bronze Angel's been a bit unlucky this year in not really having things quite go the horse's way, and just trying to check whether he's definitely going to get in here as well, because he's a really long way down, 38. Will Buick chopped up. He's definitely an interesting one because he just hasn't had the breaks. He was third in the behind Fast or Free in the Britannia, and that was a clear career best, and we haven't seen him since. He missed the cut for someone at one of the big races, so yeah, I think he's a potentially interesting horse, Bronze Angel. It might have been the Goodwood race actually. He didn't get in, the one that Boom or Bust ran in, the big mile race.
We ought to just quickly mention there are 2 horses who are bidding to win this race for the second time. Prince of Johan, who won this race last year off 8 stone 9. He's got 9 stone 8 this year for Thomas Tate. And also the winner 2 years ago, Credit Swap for Michael Wiggum, with Jim Crowley's winning rider from 2 years ago back aboard. It's interesting that 6 horses have followed up, or at least won 2 Cambridgeshires. The last one to do it, Rambo's Hall, and it wasn't back-to-back years. It was 89-92.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of... Was Baronet one of them? Was that years ago? Can't remember. Was Baronet? I can't remember anyway. It's tough though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is tough because you're rising the weights. The other thing with that last year, I mean, having called it, was that, remember they were all in one group. It was fab. They just didn't... It didn't.
I remember you turning to me, so that worked out well.
I mean, what on earth people were drawn high, low as it is now, we're doing, I don't know, because they all came over and ended up on the outside flank, and it made it very difficult for horses to come from behind because they were all concertinaed in that triangle shape against the rail. Yeah. And so as a result, if that happens, it's viciously in favour of those that raced handily. Take little away from Prince of Johanna, but afterwards you just got the impression there were loads of horses clambering up the back of horses at the furlong pole that just never got any sort of out. So off a higher mark and with a normal profile. The other horse, just to mention in passing, is Mijhar, because the all-weather was not... Polly was not always going to suit Scirocco's, about 1 from 62 now on the all-weather. If there's a little bit of cut in the ground, Mijhar, is worth remembering, he was running on in the John Smiths when he got absolutely stopped. He's another horse that hasn't quite had the things go his way. There was also the argument that 1.5 miles might have been a bit far for him as well, even allowing for the Polly query. So if it is, the dewy mornings you're getting at the moment, Mijhar's not a hopeless one either, because he was pretty upwardly mobile, and Roger Varian's a pretty shrewd trainer. If it came up a little bit soft, he's interesting. There's loads of chances. There will be on the day, but I think there's a couple there that you look at that you think, are more upwardly mobile than others.
And the big race is due off at 3:40 on Saturday.